The boy tells you that if everything around you remains unchanged, you need to become a good person, protect the weak, and help orphans. He explains that you need to become a person who can help people. The guy says that for the interlocutor, there is no particular difference between good and bad deeds. But maybe this will make you a little better. The first chapter begins. Yokohama is a city. The road is bustling with thousands of people, but it also has a dark side. If you turn off the main street and get away from the hustle and bustle, you can still find traces of clashes with the mafia. It's a city teeming with people with supernatural abilities called espers. The man says that he is one of them. The boy says his name is Nakajima Atsushi, and for some reason, he's the one who has to find this man. He asks where Dazai-san went. The bridge, built in 1998, is the longest in the country and connects two major cities. There are similar places in Yokohama. A guy stands at a grave. The man asks if he knows whose grave this is. Atsushi Nakajima says he doesn't know. He says that it seems that this person is very dear to Dazai-san. The guy asks why Atsushi decided that. Nakajima explains that this is the first time he's seen them visiting a grave. The guy asks, "Is that really how it looks?" Atsushi Nakajima reports that he thinks so. Maybe it was his beloved, and if it was his beloved, he would have died with her. The man says that it was definitely him. The guy asks what he's mumbling. Atsushi says nothing. He says that this is his friend. He says that because of him, he left the port mafia and ended up in an armed detective agency, and explains that probably, if it weren't for him, he would have stayed in the port mafia, continuing to kill people. The guy says that he came here at the request of Kun. He says he wanted to try a new suicide method, and asks to pass it on to him sometime. The man reacts to this with surprise and says that the man says he doesn't know how to tell Kunikita-san this. These are surveillance camera photos taken in Taipei, Taiwan 3 years ago. He explains that the images show a thick, obscuring fog. This is not just some weather anomaly that will dissipate later. Disfigured bodies were found after this. This is a burnt corpse. The woman says it's terrible. She asks if the man was an esper. Kunikita Dapo reports that a rather famous fire esper was in the area. The guy says that this is a valid observation. He explains that a year ago, there was a thick fog in Singapore, after which a strange corpse was discovered. He explains that the man was a skilled killer with the ability to manipulate cards. Fukuzawa Yukichi ability, ALL, people are equal, says, after this fog cleared, espers were found who had died from their own abilities. Miyazawa Kenji reveals that his ability is called not yielding to the rain. He asks if there is a reason for this fog to appear. The man reports that 128 similar cases have already been recorded, and that this is only based on confirmed data, with the death toll of espers now exceeding 500. He explains that the Department for Gifted Affairs has labeled this series of incidents as suicides of people with supernatural abilities. The man says that since we're talking about suicide, he just remembered a new method of suicide. He asks how that idiot Dazai is doing. The guy says it's a box labeled BIG. He places the large, heavy box on the floor. He asks Rampo what he's doing, and Rampo tells him it's a secret. Tanizaki Junichiro asks about the mist, asking if espers really did commit suicide. Naomi refuses to let Tanizaki commit suicide and leave her alone, saying she won't allow such a thing to happen. Yosano Akiko, with the ability "Do not give your love your life," reports that, based on what the other person said, espers should be on high alert. She asks how these cases relate to them. The man reports that a request for an investigation has been received from the Department of Gifted Affairs. There is information that the person behind these suicides has reached Yokohama, so they have been tasked with verifying this information. The man presses the button. Shibusawa Tatsuhiko is reported to be 29 years old, only known to be an esper and nicknamed the Collector. Atsushi Nakajima says the word collector with a questioning intonation. He says he can't believe how he ended up here. Izumi Kayoka ability, Snow Demon, asks if Atsushi Nakajima is okay. Atsushi Nakajima replies that he is and tells her to ignore him. The man reports that an armed detective agency will fulfill this request. The immediate victims of this series of suicides are the socialist revolutionaries, in order to ensure the safety of the employees, that is, everyone present, and to maintain the stability of society, which will suffer the most from this. The man declares that an armed detective agency is launching an investigation into this man and is devoting all its resources to it. Everyone in the room stands around the table. The man asks Kunikita what he thinks. Kunikita replies by asking what exactly. The man asks if all these serial suicides are really possible. The man says it would be good if they could get more information during the meeting with the intelligence agent. He explains that this information should definitely be shared with an international investigative agency. He says he can't say anything for sure, but it might be an ability to manipulate consciousness. He says that if he can't find a way, it will be bad. Atsushi Nakajima reports that everything is going according to plan, and just in time. The man shouts, "Kunikida!" They see a little man. They look at him with surprise and caution. Then he says that it is an agent from the Secret Service, and says that he is already dead. The guy says it's probably evidence left by the criminal. The man asks what's in it. The man says it's evidence. He says apple. The man asks why apple. The man is silent. The guy says it's like he knows what it is. The sign says the name of the establishment, Asupi. A guy is sitting in a nice bar. He says that they will drink today. The guy says he's not going to wait for Ongo to arrive and adds, The guy offers to chat, and he responds by saying that he recently heard a very interesting story. The guy says he knows about Apple suicides. The guy asks about Apple suicides, and he confirms it. The man says the word Cinderella. The guy calls the girl Cinderella and says it was an unexpected answer. The girl says she never gets tired of talking to him after work. Atsushi Nakajima explains that if we're talking about poisonous apples, it must be Snow White, since she accidentally ate one. He then suggests that Snow White may have been suicidal. He says that perhaps she knew the apple was poisoned, but she still bit into it. The man asks why, and she replies that she did so out of despair. Atsushi Nakajima says she may have fallen into despair due to her mother's abuse, and that there are many things they don't know. He says that this whole world is filled with despair, and that's why life is so interesting. The man is silent. Atsushi Nakajima reveals that he recently met an interesting man who can make people commit suicide with apples, and explains that it could become popular in Yokohama. He says, "These are suicides." The man asks if these are suicides. The man asks if it's wonderful. Atsushi Nakajima tells him the man has a very interesting way of thinking and calls him Dazai. He says he's not as interesting as Odasaka. Atsushi Nakajima informs Ongo that he's late. The man stands silently, his head bowed. A man rings the doorbell. The man explains that Ongo won't be coming. Atsushi Nakajima tells Odasaku that what he said was true and that helping people is a wonderful thing. He says that while he is alive, a man screams away. Atsushi Nakajima reports that he kicked and fell. He says that neither in heaven nor in this shelter there is no place for people like him. The man says it would be better if the other one just died. Atsushi Nakajima reports the sound F-shu. He makes strange sounds and screams, then suddenly jumps up and continues screaming. After that, he breathes heavily. Atsushi Nakajima says it's a dream, then a knocking sound is heard. He says he will come in. The man replies yes. The girl announces that she has arrived, and Atsushi Nakajima says that he was waiting for her. He asks if his interlocutor is okay and apologizes for shouting too loudly and waking him up, explaining that he had a nightmare. Atsushi Nakajima says he can't let the girl die. The girl says she doesn't want to die. He says that Keka-chan dreamed about him. Keka-chan asks to wait. Atsushi Nakajima says it's fog. Then he stands up and calls out to someone, before suddenly grabbing her hand. Nakajima explains that the area is mostly populated by elderly people, and that children are rare. He explains that because of this, the school has few students and is at risk of closing. Atsushi Nakajima says this is the same fog that causes people to commit suicide. The woman says they need a detective agency. He listens. Atsushi Nakajima says that he should call and warn them first, and then says that even though it's late, he calls. He says there is no network. He asks how that can happen. Atsushi Nakajima reports a sound similar to muth. He says it's a headache medicine. A man reports that he is biting something. Atsushi Nakajima announces that they're going Odasaku and walks down the hallway. The man reports that an apple and a glass of drink are on the table. Nakajima reports to Dazai-kun. Atsushi Nakajima says he has no intention of giving up and explains that he has a reason to continue fighting. The man understands his position but warns that the consequences could be severe. A man asks Atsushi Nakajima if he wants a drink, to which Atsushi replies, no, he's working. The man then asks if he's working. The man on the right says, by the way, about that, while the two men on either side are clutching pistols and the sound of cocking can be heard. The man reports that someone invited Shibusawa Tatsuhiko to Yokohama and addresses Dazai-kun. Atsushi Nakajima says that it was him and asks what he plans to do. He says he's planning to commit mass suicide. Atsushi Nakajima announces that it's a top. The man with the gun expresses surprise. Three men fire at Atsushi Nakajima, who parries the attack by creating a defensive vortex. He says that the interlocutor really thinks he can catch them. Atsushi Nakajima says something. The man, upon seeing another man, says to take him. The man with the glasses explains that people resist the happiness of death, and this is a test from God, and also asks if the musical accompaniment has started. Nakajima explains that it's a cocktail with rum and pineapple juice called a pina colada. He explains that it's a classic drink often served in bars. Atsushi Nakajima sits at the bar. He says that today they will drink to something. Atsushi Nakajima says, "We won't wait for Ango." He reports that he recently overheard a very busy conversation, and the other man says that they will just chat then. Atsushi Nakajima says he knows about the Apple suicides. The guy says Apple suicides, and the man confirms that's what they are. The man asks if it's Cinderella and takes a sip from his glass. Atsushi Nakajima says Cinderella. The man says that even he wouldn't answer that, and Atsushi Nakajima explains how he enjoys chatting with the man. The guy says that Snow White ate the poisoned apple and she did not commit suicide, and he says that he was mistaken and asks to wait, then says that maybe Snow White did commit suicide. Atsushi Nakajima explains that perhaps she knew the apple was poisoned and bit into it anyway. The man asks why. Atsushi Nakajima says she was desperate. He says that the whole world is filled with despair, but it is even stranger because despair in her was caused by her mother, who gave her this poisoned apple. Atsushi Nakajima says that's okay, it's still interesting. The man remains silent. He reports that he recently met an interesting esper who forces people to commit suicide with apples, and perhaps Yokohama will be mired in them someday. Atsushi Nakajima says yes. The man asks about suicide. He says it's wonderful. The man explains that Atsushi's train of thought is completely unpredictable and says he's funny. Atsushi Nakajima says it's not as much as the man he's talking to. The man reveals that he has something he can't show. He reports that Ango is late. The man stands silently nearby. Atsushi Nakajima announces that Ango won't be coming. He then stands at the table with a drink. The bell rings. He tells Odasaku that his words were true and that helping people is wonderful. Atsushi Nakajima says that if the interlocutor himself is alive, of course. The man shouts, "Get lost." Atsushi Nakajima punches a man, who falls to the ground. The man tells her that there's no place for someone like Atsushi Nakajima in the orphanage, here or anywhere else in this world. He says that it would be better if the interlocutor dies somewhere under the fence. Atsushi Nakajima announces that the door is opening. He screams and tries to protect himself from something that is quickly approaching him. Then he falls backwards, continuing to scream. After the fall, Atsushi breathes heavily. Atsushi Nakajima says it's a dream. He says he will open the door. The man replies, yes. Atsushi Nakajima reports that the door has opened. The girl asks the man if he is okay, and the man explains that he had a bad dream and apologizes for screaming too loudly. He turns sharply to the man. The guy says it's in his dream. Atsushi Nakajima asks Keka-chan to wait and tries to stop him. He reports that there was fog. The man asks if there was fog. Atsushi Nakajima says he needs help. He notices what's happening and reacts sharply. Then Atsushi Nakajima grabs the handrail and pushes back sharply. Nakajima reports that the area is mostly inhabited by elderly people and that children are rare. Atsushi Nakajima asks if this is the same fog that causes espers to commit suicide. Then he explains what. The girl says they're going to the agency. He sits silently on the floor. Atsushi Nakajima says that they should call first, but then explains that it's useless at this hour. He says there is no network. He says it can't be. A man makes a shoe sound. Atsushi Nakajima explains that if the medicine is not taken, the disease will progress and the person will die. Man reports sound made when sucking. Atsushi Nakajima announces that it's time to go, turning to Odasaku. He reports that top. Atsushi Nakajima says, Dazai-kun. He says he can't afford to be weak because weakness is death. The man explains that he's not going to give up and intends to fight to the end. The man says that the one who invited Shibusawa Tatsuhiko to Yokohama was Dazai-kun. The man asks if it was him. The man says that he is right and asks what Atsushi Nakajima will do. He says he's going to commit mass suicide among espers. The man asks if he's really going to do that. The man reacts to the incoming blow. Then Atsushi Nakajima delivers a powerful blow, creating a strong gust of wind. The man steps forward. He says he thinks he can catch them. Atsushi Nakajima says something strange is happening. The man with glasses shouts fire and orders them to shoot. Atsushi Nakajima says that resistance is the happiness of suicide and all of this is a test bestowed by the gods. The man with glasses notices that he's already started playing. He says it's funny that their abilities don't work. The girl remains silent. Atsushi Nakajima announces that he will go last after the girl. The girl and Atsushi Nakajima throw something into the air. The man stumbles and makes a noise of surprise. He says he's figured out why these Esper suicides are happening. The girl listens to him. Atsushi Nakajima says that this creature does not look like a normal demon, and the man says that it is not from their world and does not obey normal laws. He says that we need to leave. He reports the sounds of explosions and impacts accompanying what is happening. Atsushi Nakajima asks a man if he's hurt, and the man replies, "Ah." The man addresses the girl as Kunikita-san. The girl reports that it's Kyoka. He asks what happened. The man remains silent. Atsushi Nakajima says he was shot by his ability. Atsushi Nakajima says he was shot by his ability. Atsushi Nakajima asks if he was shot by his ability. He is silent. He is silent. Atsushi Nakajima reports a loud explosion and someone flying into a wall. Atsushi Nakajima and the man with glasses react to the incident, and the man with glasses says they need to act. The woman says it's a snow demon. The girl screams, "Climb in," and it makes a sound. Atsushi Nakajima yells, "Run, Atsushi," and runs away. The man shoots and says, "Pow, pow." He attacks a woman with a gun. The man with the gun says, "Kunikuda-san." The guy shouts Kunikuda-san's name. The girl delivers a powerful sword strike to Atsushi Nakajima, who tries to defend himself by raising his hands. Atsushi Nakajima tells Kunikita-san to give him her hand. Then Atsushi Nakajima extends his hand. He and the man shake hands. Then the car's rapid movements and the sound of screeching tires are shown. Atsushi Nakajima says he's tired while also saying he's tired too. The man says they'll stay at the detective agency for now and asks them to hurry. The girl remains silent. He says the man said he found the reason for the constant suicides. Atsushi Nakajima reports that espers don't commit suicide. The man remains silent. He reports that they were killed by their own abilities. Atsushi Nakajima says it would have been better to wait until the morning. He says that by then the fog would probably have cleared. He turns to Kyoka-chan. Kyoka is silent. The man opens the door abruptly, making a slamming sound, and the girl says that she's in pain. Atsushi Nakajima reports that the car is humming and spinning. Atsushi Nakajima and the girl watch the car crash into a pole and burst into flames. He says that if he can't handle this, he'll die, and he says he doesn't want to die. The girl explains that he must survive to see her become stronger. Atsushi Nakajima says there's no one here. He reports what is happening. The girl looks at him. Atsushi Nakajima reports that a massive traffic jam has begun in the city, explaining that traffic has come to a complete standstill due to an accident on the main street. The woman reports that the entire city has been enveloped in silence. He looks at it. Atsushi Nakajima reports that it seems like everything disappeared without a trace. Atsushi Nakajima says he can't believe it, and that it's impossible. Atsushi Nakajima says he can't believe it happened. He says, "Get lost." Atsushi Nakajima reports that he senses someone with a strong desire to kill, and the guy calls him Kyoka-chan. He says, "Kyoka-chan." Kyoka-chan runs away. Atsushi Nakajima says, "Tsukino." Atsushi Nakajima takes a step. Atsushi Nakajima and the girl look at the overturned car and the stains on the ground. He says it's blood. He asks if there were any suicides here due to abilities. The man remains silent. Atsushi Nakajima reports that there are no corpses, but suddenly a loud sound is heard. He and the girl hear the sounds of gunshots. The sound is coming from the phone. Atsushi Nakajima reports that the creature is a beast, and he can't figure out what it is. The woman says the creature is very dangerous. He explains that his ability is called Moonlight Beast. The girl explains that her name is Snow Demon. The man yells at Kyoka-chan to step back. Atsushi Nakajima explains that the building was built in 1960 and hasn't been renovated since, so it's starting to deteriorate. The girl explains that the crack in the wall was caused by a recent earthquake. He says he's in shock, and the man says the same thing. Atsushi Nakajima says their abilities didn't activate. He grabs the girl by the hand. He and the girl run away from the falling truck. He calls the girl Kyoka-chan. Atsushi Nakajima reports that there is a car below and explains that it is a car that can drive on water. A growling sound comes from a dark creature. To be continued. Atsushi Nakajima tells him he can't go on like this and needs to leave. The man explains that he understands his feelings but asks him not to leave and to stay by his side. The man reports that, fortunately, they found Esper, who seems to be the cause of all this. Atsushi Nakajima reports the sound coming from the tower image, then explains that the sound continues when the image is enlarged, and explains that the sound also persists on the data screen. It is reported to be located in an abandoned multi-story building in the center of Yokohama called Mukuro Toride. Atsushi Nakajima says so and asks if it's Shibusawa Tatsuhiko after all. The man says he's making an important request to the agency. He asks Shibusawa Tatsuhiko to stop. The man is kneeling, the woman is standing next to him, and the guy is standing to the right. Atsushi Nakajima says that it must be done by any means necessary, he also reports. He says that you need to keep in mind that Dazai-kun might be in cahoots with him. The man in glasses exclaims, Dazai. Atsushi Nakajima says he's been captured. The man says Yokohama will be destroyed and warns that if he doesn't act now, there will be a mistake. He states the number 533. Then he, the man, and the girl react sharply to a loud sound. They begin to move forward. Atsushi Nakajima announces that it is a grenade and throws it. The woman says he is here. He tells this to the man. Atsushi Nakajima says he can stop him on his own and says the two can go forward. Atsushi Nakajima speaks on his own. He says that Kunikita-san won't be able to win against his own abilities, and then explains that it's not about whether he can win. Atsushi Nakajima says it's about whether he's ready to fight. He says that the election campaign is a fight against oneself. Atsushi Nakajima says that this is what he always did. The girl and boy listen silently. The man reports that it wasn't just a fall, but a fall from a great height. The man explains that if it had been a person, they would have already died. Atsushi Nakajima reports that the weapon is ready for use. He says what it is. Atsushi Nakajima announces that they are an armed detective agency. The sound of a gunshot can be heard nearby. He says to take it while simultaneously throwing down the gun. Then he picks up the gun. Atsushi Nakajima says he's not needed. He explains that the enemy's ability cannot create weapons larger than a notebook and asks them to escape through the back door while he distracts the enemy. Atsushi Nakajima explains that the weapon he holds is the most powerful in the world and can destroy anything with a single shot, but also explains that it requires special handling and training. The man explains that if the rules are not followed, the weapon could go out of control and cause a catastrophe. He says to hurry up while loading his gun. Atsushi Nakajima asks if they know the location of laser A51588. The man confirms that they do and asks to send a message. Atsushi Nakajima says to say, he says that it's time to repay the debt to this Four Eyes guy. Atsushi Nakajima says the abilities didn't activate, and the man says that's weird. He says she's following them, at which point the car explodes and he grabs the girl by the hand. Then there's a thud. Atsushi Nakajima says he feels pain. Then he coughs and falls face down on the ground. He tells Kunikuta-san that he's okay. He took out the bullet and everything's fine, and Kunikuta-san asks where these wounds came from. Then he says what's more important and grabs him by the collar. Atsushi Nakajima reveals he has found the cause of serial suicides. He reports that a monster came out of the pipe. He and the man are sitting on the ground and discussing the situation. Atsushi Nakajima says, damn it, then orders them to run. At that moment, there's an explosion and gunshots. He says the man is fine. The man is coughing. The man calls out to Kunikita-san. Kunikita-san is standing nearby. Atsushi Nakajima reports what happened and asks what happened. The man remains silent. The girl suddenly runs and calls out Kyoka-chan. He says that he lost to his own ability, repeating this with the words his own ability. He reports that he lost to his own ability. Atsushi Nakajima expresses confusion. He reports that the door has been broken into. The man in glasses warns that you need to be careful. A woman reports it's a snow demon. The girl screams to get in the car. Atsushi Nakajima makes a sound as he starts to move. He screams, "Run, Atsushi." He runs away from the creature. The man shoots at the creature. The creature falls to the ground. Atsushi Nakajima strikes with his sword. The man shouts, "Kunikuta-san." Nakajima Atsushi fires a pistol. The girl deflects the shot with her weapon and strikes back. Atsushi Nakajima runs, dodging gunfire. He yells at Kunikuta-san to give up his hand. Kunikuta-san reaches out to Atsushi Nakajima. Two people shake hands. The rapid movements and sounds that accompany their actions are then depicted. Atsushi Nakajima and the man are breathing heavily. He tells Kunikita-san that she recently spoke about a series of Esper suicides. The man explains that they need to hurry to the agency. Atsushi Nakajima reports that the Espers did not commit suicide, but the man remains silent. He reports that they were killed by their own abilities. Nakajima Atsushi asks what happened. Atsushi Nakajima reports that the building is in disrepair. and there is chaos everywhere, and explains that no one has lived here for a long time. He says it's terrible. The man says he'll rush to the principal's office. Atsushi Nakajima reports that Kunikida-san. The man explains that he is going to the window. He says it's Kunikuda-san and sees him kicking the door. He then approaches a table in an empty room. Atsushi Nakajima asks what happened. The man with glasses explains that he spilled coffee on himself and the sound of liquid spilling is heard. The guy reports the sound of a blow. Atsushi Nakajima says what it is. The man puts his hand on the keyboard, making sounds. He reports that the door slammed with a loud sound. A buzzing sound can be heard in the classroom. Atsushi Nakajima reports that something exploded in the room. A man and a woman look at the destruction. The sound of footsteps can be heard to the right and left of the door. Atsushi Nakajima reports that he seems to have gotten through and asks to keep this frequency, then asks if he can be heard and turns to Director Fukuzawa. He reports that Detective Kunikida is on the line and asks if he's right in assuming the person is from the Gifted Affairs Department. Sakakai Ango confirms that he is from the Gifted Affairs Department. Atsushi Nakajima tells Kunikida-san to report the situation. He informs that besides him, Nakajima, Atsushi, and Kyoka Izumi are also present here. The rest of the detectives are considered missing. He explains that this line is not secure, so the conversation will be short. The man reports that the fog phenomenon has reached Yokohama, and that it has never reached this scale before. Atsushi Nakajima reports that they're in a state of emergency. Fog has blanketed the entire city, and there's no contact with the outside world. He explains that the residents of Yokohama have gone missing, and the only survivors are espers. He reports that, in other words, danger threatens them too. Atsushi Nakajima says he can't understand why the girl isn't responding and explains that he doesn't want to make her feel guilty. The girl says she can't say how she feels and says she doesn't want to hurt him. He says they can also confirm that. Atsushi Nakajima explains that in this fog, abilities leave their esper owners. He says that they are being killed. The next panel shows an explosion and a flying man. Atsushi Nakajima delivers a powerful blow, shattering the barrier. He then calmly holds his sword over his shoulder and looks ahead. Footsteps can be heard in the distance. He reveals that he is also a ghost and wonders if the day has come when his own ability wants to kill him. Atsushi Nakajima grabs a man by the throat and squeezes it. The man struggles and expresses fear. The man can't breathe, and the sound of squeezing can be heard. A girl stabs a man with a knife. The man dodges and jumps back. The man quickly retreats, and the girl follows him. Atsushi Nakajima explains that there are only 2 bridges in this town, and explains that if someone wants to cross the river, they must choose one of them. The woman reports that they have managed to locate the instigator of all this. Atsushi Nakajima reports that the image is distorted and unclear, explains that it looks like a building with a tower, and says that the screen displays an enlarged image with digital interference. The man reports that in the center of the foreigner's quarter there is a so-called rotten fortress, an abandoned high-rise building. Atsushi Nakajima says the protector is Shibusawa Tatsuhiko. The man explains that they are entrusting a very important mission to an armed detective agency. He sends a request to destroy it by any means necessary. A man in a suit is kneeling, a woman in a kimono and he are standing nearby. Atsushi Nakajima reveals that the culprit of all the troubles is Shibusawa Tatsuhiko, and one more thing. He reports that something seems wrong with Dazai-kun. The man in glasses tells Dazai with surprise. Atsushi Nakajima says he's been captured, but the man remains silent. He says that only he can. He explains that at this rate, all of Yokohama will be destroyed. Atsushi Nakajima reports a loud noise. Then, Atsushi Nakajima, the girl, and the man begin moving quickly toward the window. He announces that he has arrived. The man and the girl look towards the sound of the explosion. Atsushi Nakajima says he will stop him and says the two are moving forward. Atsushi Nakajima asks, "Stop." He asks how Kunikida-san can defeat his own ability. Kunikida-san explains that the question isn't how to defeat it. Atsushi Nakajima says the question is whether they have the will to fight. He says he will win. The man says everything is as usual. The girl and Atsushi Nakajima stare ahead in silence. There is a creaking sound, after which it makes a loud impact, accompanied by a boom sound. Atsushi Nakajima reports the sound of a gunshot. He says that this is the same. Atsushi Nakajima announces that their agency is an armed detective agency. He simultaneously clicks the slide of his pistol. He says, "Hold." He throws the gun to the guy who's trying to catch him. The girl says she doesn't need it. Atsushi Nakajima looks at her with a worried expression. He explains that he can't create a weapon bigger than a notebook, and that while he's distracting it, the others will attack from behind. Atsushi Nakajima explains that the weapon he holds is the most powerful in the world and can destroy anything with a single shot, but warns that it is extremely dangerous and requires careful handling. The man acknowledges the risk and is willing to accept the responsibility for using the weapon. He says that we need to go forward and clicks the bolt of the gun. Atsushi Nakajima informs them that there's only one person in the building who can help, and he's currently at work. Atsushi Nakajima explains that if they don't contact him, no one will be able to solve the problem. The man asks which one exactly. He reports that they have located Esper A550588. The man confirms this and orders a message to be sent to him. Atsushi Nakajima announces that it's time to repay Professor Onkariki, and adds this. He tells Kunikita-san. He reacts sharply to the explosion outside the car and starts to speak, but is interrupted. The guy shouts, Kunikita-san. Atsushi Nakajima says he wanders, rushes around and screams because he wants to live. He says that Kunikita-san will be fine. He says this with anxiety and tension. Atsushi Nakajima informs him that their primary objective now is to eliminate Shibusawa Tatsuhiko. The man remains silent, then asks who Shibusawa Tatsuhiko is. The man repeats the name, Shibusawa Tatsuhiko. He tells Koyoka-chan that she is talking about destroying him, but it is not necessary. No matter how terrible he is, he can just be captured. Atsushi Nakajima says that if Dazai-san is saved, everything will be fine, and then says that if Dazai-san is saved, something will happen. The girl says that this is Dazai-san. Atsushi Nakajima reports that it was a very beautiful sunset. He says that next time he'll definitely want to see it with someone. The image contains no text or speech from the characters, but shows a tall tower against the backdrop of a large, bright moon and clouds. The image shows a tall building against the backdrop of a large, full moon. The text, SSS, appears in the upper left corner. There are no speech bubbles or characters speaking on stage. Atsushi Nakajima tells him he can't afford to be weak. The man explains that if he isn't strong, he won't be able to protect those he cares about. He tells Dazai-kun that, isn't it boring to watch all this? Dazai-kun addresses Atsushi Nakajima by his first name. Atsushi Nakajima asks if it's boring. He says it is. He says that the world is imperfect. It is white, a complete nothingness. Atsushi Nakajima announces that today all the abilities of Yokohama's espers will become his, and explains that there won't even be anyone who surpasses his expectations and intelligence. He says it's really boring. Atsushi Nakajima says he was once bored too, and asks how the other man dealt with it. He speaks less, talks less, and takes action. He communicates that the other person doesn't even understand his true intentions. The other person replies that, by the way, Atsushi Nakajima asks if he is helping his interlocutor, and at the same time asks if he is using him, having betrayed him in advance. He says that he still needs saving. The man explains that Atsushi is convinced that it is impossible to read his thoughts and asks who will save him. Atsushi Nakajima says, The man asks if it's an angel or a demon. He says, let me speak out, your true intentions are clear. Atsushi Nakajima says that with such lies, a good performance cannot be created, and the audience will not be satisfied. The man informs that Atsushi Nakajima also has a role to play. Atsushi Nakajima calls the man the demon Fyodor-kun. He says he is addressing you as his comrade. Atsushi Nakajima asks him, despite the high risk of betrayal, if he is a comrade. The man replies that he is, indeed. He says that there has never been a person whose actions he couldn't predict. The man says that he has high hopes for them. Atsushi Nakajima states that all the espers inhabiting this city are pathetic, and explains that no matter which of the three of them survives and wins, everyone else will still die. He says what will happen if their abilities never return. The man sits silently behind the wheel of the car. The car makes a whooshing sound, and the man screams. Atsushi Nakajima says he's not sure if it's normal for them to be traveling at such speed in the fog. The sound of movement can be heard. He says he keeps a map of Yokohama in his head and explains that the ability to kill and his ability are not related. He explains that when he realized his ability allowed him to transform into a tiger that wreaks havoc, he thought it would be better if he didn't have that power. And, woman says she didn't mean to side with the snow demon who killed her parents. Atsushi Nakajima says that if you fight, you will win. He says he's already here. The man reacts to the sound of the gunshot. He and the man look ahead tensely. Atsushi Nakajima says that he can't afford to lose and announces that he will show his full strength now. The woman tells them to quickly turn right to escape pursuit. The man explains that the road is dangerous, but there is no other way. A woman jumps onto the roof of a moving car. The woman announces that she is about to strike. The woman explains that she is about to deliver a sharp blow with her sword. The girl reports that the grinding noise is audible. Then the girl explains that the grinding noise continues. Atsushi Nakajima grabs the man by the collar. The man says that's enough. Atsushi Nakajima looks at the man. Nakajima Atsushi jumps from the roof of a car that suddenly starts moving. Atsushi Nakajima states that he can't afford to lose. Then Atsushi Nakajima quickly moves forward. He reports hearing the sound of an explosion. He and the girl see a large fire blazing up ahead on the street. Atsushi Nakajima strikes his opponent with his sword. The man watches intently. The guy strikes his opponent with his sword, then quickly steps back, preparing for the next move. Atsushi Nakajima kicks his opponent, who parries it with his sword, after which they exchange quick punches and blocks. He shoots a gun, a girl with a bow and arrow moves quickly, and a man with a sword jumps to the side. Atsushi Nakajima says the safety is on and orders them to leave. Then the click of a pistol's bolt is heard. Atsushi Nakajima aims and signals that he's ready to fire. The girl says it needs to be done faster. He says he understands. The woman makes a pained sound. The masked man strikes. Atsushi Nakajima screams and fires his gun at the woman and the masked man. He says he can't believe this happened and says he's not going to kill. Atsushi Nakajima reports that someone slipped through. He says, KH notices something and reacts with surprise. Then he fires his gun. Atsushi Nakajima says, you, and then says, you, so. He says that he recognized his interlocutor. Atsushi Nakajima says, Akutagawa. He shoots a toy gun. The man explains that such a weapon won't work on him. Nakajima reports that there isn't a single person in the city who isn't connected to the criminal underworld. He explains that even those who seem ordinary are actually involved in crime. There are no speech bubbles or text in the image. The character is standing in the center of the frame. Atsushi Nakajima says, Rashomon. The man makes a growling sound. Nakajima reports that the tiger is a beast that cannot be captured alive. The woman announces that it's about to begin. Atsushi Nakajima notices an enemy approaching, jumping from the roof. Atsushi Nakajima abruptly lunges forward, preparing to attack. He screams as a huge tiger attacks him. Atsushi Nakajima reports that the beast is jumping. He then explains that the beast is slamming into him with force. Nakajima says he wants to see for himself whose ability is stronger, but the man warns that now is not the time. The man explains that a port mafia building is located somewhere nearby, and there must be a secret path to it. The girl strikes the enemy. The man tells Tiger to follow him. Tiger. Atsushi Nakajima says, wow, and then yells, hey. He says he'll definitely catch up. In another shot, the girl jumps with a sword and delivers a blow, accompanied by the sound of a swing. Atsushi Nakajima runs down the street. A scraping sound is heard. Atsushi Nakajima reports that it's okay. He says that this is a good place to hide. He then approaches the man and puts his arm around his waist. The man says that he shouldn't get so close. The man places an object on the table. Atsushi Nakajima states that he can't let this happen and tries to stop the man, who suddenly strikes with his sword. The man explains that he has no intention of stopping and continues attacking. He strikes, accompanied by a thumping sound. Then he says, wow. Atsushi Nakajima is silent. Atsushi Nakajima opens the door, making a sound. The girl jumps down. Atsushi Nakajima says she's Koyoka-chan. A girl jumps off a counter, slides her hand across the surface, and lands, breaking a wall. The man reports that she stepped on something. Atsushi Nakajima shouts at Koyoka-chan. The girl jumps to the side. Atsushi Nakajima and the man watch the action. The girl throws punches, accompanied by the sounds of bum bum bum. The girl says the door only opens from the outside and explains that if someone gets inside, they won't be able to get out. He explains that the door is locked from the inside and says they need to find another way out. The man explains that this is a secret passage in case of an Esper attack and that the fog won't reach here. Atsushi Nakajima asks what kind of fog this is. He explains that it is the dragon's breath, and he says, dragon. The guy tells Kyoka that the two of them have no abilities now and he can kill him with his assassin skills. The woman asks what is going on and at the same time wonders if the interlocutor really doesn't want to break off this connection. Atsushi Nakajima says that Kyoka-chan doesn't even remember who he's talking to and then suggests they sort it out now before they get their abilities back. A girl asks Atsushi Nakajima if he knows how to restore her powers. He says he does. The boy expresses surprise. Atsushi Nakajima explains that if an ability is defeated, it will return to its owner. Atsushi Nakajima asks what the man's goal is. The man replies that it's probably the same as theirs. Atsushi Nakajima mentions Shibusawa's name and asks, he says he's wondering if there's another way to save Yokohama, and the man says he'll gut him and then kill him. Atsushi Nakajima reports that the agency does not deal with murders and says that they do not kill. The man says it's funny and congratulates Tiger. He asks what? The girl says that Kyoka understands how it works. The girl says she used to be a member of the port mafia. Atsushi Nakajima explains that killing in the mafia and in the agency are two different things, so she chose the bright side, left the mafia, and joined the agency. Atsushi Nakajima tells Kayuka-chan. He explains that if Dazai had stopped the fog with his ability before going over to the enemy's side, there would have been no killings. Atsushi Nakajima says Dazai-san has defected to the enemy. The man explains that he voluntarily joined their enemy. He says he couldn't do that and reveals that he once deserted from the mafia. He then expresses dissatisfaction. Atsushi Nakajima says he will kill him with his own hands, and if he dies, it will only be by his hand. The man asks if he has the strength. He shoots a pistol at a man in a long coat. Atsushi Nakajima says he won't let anyone kill him. The man says he heard someone say he couldn't kill him. The man says he doesn't intend to kill him but simply wants him to stop resisting. The man explains that if he surrenders, it will be over quickly and painlessly. Atsushi Nakajima reports that the door has slammed shut. The man explains that the place looks like a warehouse with barrels. The girl explains that something important might be stored here. He says that he won't go with him either. Atsushi Nakajima says that if he can't get through, he'll kill whoever's at the door. Then the sound of gunfire is heard. The girl makes a buzzing sound, and he says he's surprised. Then Atsushi Nakajima's hand slams the door shut. The girl says she's coming with him. Atsushi Nakajima says, "Hey," and asks them to wait. Atsushi Nakajima runs after them yelling, "Wait." Nakajima explains that this place is called the Temple of the Stars. The man explains that the temple was built to observe the stars and study their influence on human destinies. Nakajima explains that ancient scrolls containing prophecies and knowledge about the stars are kept here. A man announces welcome to his collection room. Atsushi Nakajima says these are all crystallized abilities and notes that the collection is quite good. He announces that they are heading to Draconia. He says it's a wonderful hobby, one that even the devil himself would envy. The man explains that most of the collection was amassed thanks to information acquired from Atsushi and asks if that makes Atsushi a death rat selling information to the devil. Atsushi Nakajima says that luck smiled on him and his fog covered almost the entire city. The woman says that he asks how she was able to get so much information. Atsushi Nakajima says that rats can get anywhere. The man makes a meow sound. He announces that they have a new addition. The man explains the sound that was heard. Atsushi Nakajima reports that another Esper has died in Yokohama. He says that a man and a woman are looking at a large device. He reports that as long as there is an empty space for a unique ability, the collection is of no use. The man says that no matter how much you collect, Atsushi Nakajima tells him he can't afford to relax because something terrible could happen at any moment. The girl explains that she understands his feelings and is also afraid, but he can't give up. The man explains that they must stick together and find a way out of this situation. He asks Kyoka-chan why they should go with him. Kyoka-chan explains that he has important information, and that's why they can use the mafia's secret passages. The man says that if he regains his ability, he'll become a trump card in battle. Atsushi Nakajima explains that they have the same goal, eliminating Shibusawa. The girl speaks but doesn't finish the thought, saying only, "No." The guy says that he is our enemy, isn't he? The man tells Kyoka that he thinks he still keeps the phone in memory of his mother. Atsushi Nakajima asks if it's his mother's. He says there are a lot of cameras in the area, and they could be in danger. The man explains that they need to be careful and not attract attention. The guy says that the girl doesn't know anything about this either. Atsushi Nakajima is silent. Atsushi Nakajima says he doesn't know. A man and a woman stand next to each other. The man says something to the woman. The guy asks if this is the shortest route. The woman says that it is route 555. The sound of the hatch opening signals the beginning of the action. Atsushi Nakajima explains that the hatch has opened and a man is emerging from it. The man is standing, while Atsushi Nakajima is sitting on the ground. The man looks at Atsushi Nakajima, who lifts his head from the hatch. He says that he should have guessed it's his ability. Atsushi Nakajima reports that it's no wonder he senses his location. In the upper right corner of the stage, a man with a bandage on his face makes a slapping sound. He says he'll help. The man in the suit with suspenders counters that he won't. Atsushi Nakajima explains that he spent the entire night killing enemies to demonstrate his strength, but still miscalculated. He says that who would have thought the true enemy was so close. The girl says that they also have things to do, and he says that right now it's more important. Atsushi Nakajima says, The man says he can't afford to be weak. Nakajima and the girl approach a sword-wielding figure that appears before them. The girl takes the sword and says it's a bell. She then quickly strikes the sword, cutting the ground. Nakajima stands behind her, preparing for further action. Atsushi Nakajima says that he should do what he has to do too. The man responds with surprise. He shouts, Kyoka-chan, and Kulka-chan runs forward quickly. Atsushi Nakajima says it's time. Then he lets out a sound like a piercing scream. He says that the tiger is not just an animal, but a creature that can be both a friend and an enemy, and that he is not afraid of it. Atsushi Nakajima informs him that if he defeats the ability, it will return to its owner. Atsushi Nakajima remains silent. The man clicks the pistol slide. He says he will do what he must. The girl says there's nothing but emptiness in this world and that she can't understand what's happening. The man explains that they're in a space between worlds where there's nothing but emptiness and that they must find a way out. Atsushi Nakajima explains that for him, humans are predictable machines of flesh and blood. Everything is quite simple and boring. A man says there's someone he can't figure out. The man explains that that person is himself. Atsushi Nakajima explains that there are spaces in his mind that are like unreadable spaces between the lines. The man asks if Atsushi even has any friends. He says that he doesn't need them because he sees right through everyone. Soon he will definitely find the truth and fill in the gaps between the lines. Then he will understand himself. Atsushi Nakajima says that he really thinks there will be even one person. He says that he'll be able to overcome his own ability. The sound of an explosion conveys a sharp collision or impact. A buzzing sound is heard at the top right, then a loud thumping sound is heard at the bottom right. Nakajima reveals that this is the entrance to a dungeon and explains that there are only 3 paths leading there, 2 of which are closed. He explains that only one path remains and warns that further down the road it will be dangerous. The masked man hears approaching footsteps and notices someone walking toward him. Atsushi Nakajima announces that he has arrived. The masked man continues to watch Atsushi. Nakajima stands on the bridge in a fighting stance, the wind flying around him. The man says that we need to stop. The man explains that we can't move now. The man says he can't afford to lose. The man says it's no use, he can't reach it. The man remains silent. The man strikes with his hand. The man reports that this is true. Atsushi Nakajima notices the creature approaching and reacts to its leap. The man says the only thing left to do is close the distance. The man presses the gun. The man makes a gunshot sound. The man says he can't afford to lose. The man explains that if he loses, his life will end. Nakajima reports an explosion on the bridge. Nakajima reports the sound of a fall and impact, accompanied by a rustling sound. Atsushi Nakajima declares that he will destroy everything that stands in his way. He then violently throws wooden beams, causing a powerful explosion. The woman says what it is. At this moment, the sound of sudden movements is heard. Atsushi Nakajima reveals the name of the Rashomon technique, Jaws. He says, "Damn it," and tries to fight off the attacking creature. He then reacts sharply to the attack and dodges, coming face to face with the creature. Nakajima Atsushi delivers a powerful punch, causing a massive explosion and destruction. Atsushi Nakajima states that he can't afford to lose, and explains that if he falls, he won't be able to get up. The man says support. Atsushi Nakajima screams. He then falls to the ground with a loud thud. Afterwards, Atsushi Nakajima jumps and fires his pistol. The tiger roars. He reports that the tiger roars. Atsushi Nakajima remains silent. He shoots, shots ring out, the tiger stands motionless. Atsushi Nakajima says it bounced off. Then he fires his flamethrower. He attacks the tiger, which roars and tries to hurt him. He pushes the tiger away and fights off its attack. Atsushi Nakajima says, "Ow," then jumps and falls to the ground. Tiger says, "Damn," and asks what to do and how to defeat him. He explains that the tiger is not just an animal, but a creature that can be a friend. He then explains that he is not afraid of the tiger and wants to understand it better. Nakajima reveals that it is not a sword, but a claw. Atsushi Nakajima says it's impossible because he can't see. The woman says she sees and explains that it's not just a vision, but something more that she feels. He says it needs to be broken, then he yells silk and aims his gun. Atsushi Nakajima says, "What the hell?" and throws something, making the word clunk sound. A man with a tense look reports the bullets, and clicking sounds are heard. He says that no one can defeat their own ability. The girl expresses the need to defeat their own ability. The girl says she can't let them leave and kicks them. The man with the gun looks at the burning building where Atsushi Nakajima is standing. Atsushi Nakajima stands, looking at the man lying on the ground. The man with glasses looks forward. He clenches his fist and says he can't afford to lose. Then he stands there, holding a hook in his hand, and says he must win. The character makes the sound of an exhalation. Then an explosion occurs. Atsushi Nakajima says that he fought a lot and killed a lot, but he never acknowledged him. He says that he now understands why, and explains that no matter how strong the enemy is, Rashomon is always stronger. Atsushi Nakajima reveals that he is not the one who has only a pathetic weak body. He says that he is not an appendage to Rashomon and not just a vessel. Atsushi Nakajima reveals that he is himself, and his existence has value in itself. He reports that he had no opportunity to prove this in practice, but no matter how much he shouted about it. The man says he can't afford to lose. The man reports a sound similar to a hum or vibration. Atsushi Nakajima announces that he is currently on the roof and is about to jump down. A man claims he is a ghost who cannot die. In the right panel, the man states that he can't afford to miss this opportunity and explains that if he misses it, he will die. In the left panel, the man turns abruptly. Atsushi Nakajima states that he cannot afford to lose and explains that if he falls, he will die. A woman reports that the chains are clinking. The woman says, grab. The man says, voosh. Atsushi Nakajima says he's jumping. Then he slides down and swings his arm, making the jump. He says cough, then cough again. He hits the ground. The man says he can't afford to lose, and at that moment, gunshots are heard. The man reacts sharply to what's happening. The sounds of destruction convey the fall and destruction of the structure. A man makes a grinding noise when moving a lever. A man falls into the water from a bridge, making a loud thud as he falls. Atsushi Nakajima is silent. He pulls the chain. Atsushi Nakajima tells him to stop. The boy asks Rashomon if he thinks he can corner him. Rashomon replies that he was the man who managed to win an even more hopeless fight. Atsushi Nakajima remains silent. Atsushi Nakajima explains that he cannot afford to lose and declares that he will fight to the end. The guy screams, and he jumps off the roof. The man makes a sound of effort. The man delivers a quick punch. The man throws a series of punches at the ground. Atsushi Nakajima falls back, dodging the man's attack. The man states that he cannot afford to lose, and explains that if he loses, he will die. Atsushi Nakajima kicks his opponent, causing him to fall and hit the ground with a thud. The man says he can't die because he's a doll. The man explains he has no soul and feels no pain. The man says his body can regenerate infinitely. The sound effect conveys a loud impact, or falling into water. Nakajima falls from the truck, which screeches as it moves. His hand plunges into the water, causing a splash. The truck carrying Nakajima plummets into the water. The woman says that she needs to think about her behavior. Atsushi Nakajima says, "What's going on?" Then the sound of a capture is heard. He says that they won't take him with bare hands or a hot iron. The man rises from the fire. Nakajima states that he knows he's strong and that this is to be expected from his abilities. The sound of a blow accompanies the scene. The man says he wants him to say it. Atsushi Nakajima looks at the man silently. The man with the bandage on his face says, "Stop." The monster says that he can't die because he's already dead. Atsushi Nakajima says that hot iron hardens when it cools and that he planned this all along. He then declares that he will kill the person he's talking to with his own hands. He screams that this is it. The man falls to the ground after being hit. The man says that if he can't win, he will die. The man says he can't afford to die. Atsushi Nakajima explains that he has no intention of giving up and intends to fight to the end. He says that he taught him this, and only in this way will this man recognize him, a weakling. The man explains that his body is made up of many fragments that can regenerate. Nakajima Atsushi reports a powerful explosion accompanied by a loud sound. Atsushi Nakajima says the word sparkle followed by the sound of breaking. The sound of the explosion is accompanied by the sound of splashes, which conveys the sound of footsteps. Atsushi Nakajima stands next to a huge, ominous shadow with an open mouth making a fushing sound. He says that he can't allow himself to die because he wants to live. Atsushi Nakajima says that's great and orders them to stay there. He explains that there is nothing but emptiness in this world and that he can't understand what's happening. The girl says that they must move on, despite the confusing situation. The woman says that for her, people are predictable machines of flesh and blood. She explains that everything is quite simple and boring. Atsushi Nakajima says there is one person he can't understand and reveals that that person is himself. He explains that there is something in his mind that resembles spaces between the lines that are impossible to read. The man asks if Atsushi has any friends at all. Atsushi Nakajima says that he doesn't need them because he sees right through everyone and will fill in the gaps between the lines. He will soon find the truth, and then he will understand himself. He says that if they were friends, he wouldn't say that. The man says that soon. The guy says that all of Yokohama's abilities will become his. Atsushi Nakajima says that he really thinks there will be even one person. He says that he will be able to defeat his own ability. Then there is a loud explosion. The buzzing sounds are heard from the top right, then the bottom right, then the center right, and finally a loud thumping sound is heard from the top left. The man states that it is something he cannot understand and explains that it is not a person. The masked man hears approaching footsteps and looks ahead. Atsushi Nakajima announces that he came here to stop the masked man. The masked man continues to stare ahead, and Atsushi Nakajima walks toward him. Nakajima stands on the bridge with his wings spread, making a wind sound. Atsushi Nakajima calls, "Stop." Atsushi Nakajima explains that something is moving quickly past him. The man reports that he cannot afford to relax. The man says it's no use. He can't reach it. The man remains silent. The man strikes. Atsushi Nakajima reports that this is correct. Then the demon leaps forward. The man says the only thing left to do is close the distance. The man presses the gun. The man makes a gunshot sound. The man says he can't afford to lose. The man throws down a wooden cross. A powerful explosion occurs on the bridge. Nakajima describes the sound of a board falling with a crash. He then explains the rustling sound of a board falling. The man explains that this isn't just a pile of sticks, but the result of a battle. The man explains that the sticks are the remains of weapons broken in the battle. Atsushi Nakajima reports a grinding sound, then stands, followed by an explosion. Nakajima Atsushi says what it is. At that moment, a sh sound is heard. Atsushi Nakajima reveals the name of the Rashomon technique, Jaws. He says damn, then he moves suddenly and strikes the creature. Nakajima Atsushi parries the attack, creating a powerful explosion and deflecting the blows. Atsushi Nakajima explains that he cannot lose because he has a purpose to live for. He then explains that he has no intention of giving up and will fight to the end. He says support. Atsushi Nakajima quickly runs forward, then turns sharply and prepares to attack, clenching his fist tensely. He gets hit in the chest by a tiger. Atsushi Nakajima screams as he crashes into a wall. He then breathes heavily and says, "This is shit." He says, "This is the end." Atsushi Nakajima says it's not over yet and grabs a bucket. He then throws something on the ground several times. A woman screams, "Kyoka-chan," while simultaneously parrying a man's attack, who strikes her with a sword. The sound of the swords clashing is transmitted as a grinding sound. Atsushi Nakajima says that now. Atsushi Nakajima reports that he missed. The snow demon killed Mom, but he says that if he defeats her, Atsushi Nakajima says he'll become like him and become a demon. Then we see the girl being struck by a sword and falling backwards. The woman says the door is locked and explains that the key is in the room across the hall. He says he'll open the door now. The woman says that if the door doesn't open, they'll have to find another way out. Then the woman abruptly opens the door, making a loud noise. A guy strikes a girl with a sword. The girl parries the attack and responds with a counterattack. The guy reflects her blow. Atsushi Nakajima reports that the demon is the embodiment of murder. Atsushi Nakajima reports that the woman says that the guy says that it is him after all. Then the guy runs away from the approaching creature. Atsushi Nakajima deflects a sword strike. Atsushi Nakajima notices the approaching threat. Atsushi Nakajima looks forward in surprise. The image shows the sound of a phone ringing. The woman says she can't talk now and asks to call back later. The next panel depicts the wind rustling through the grass. Atsushi Nakajima says that, and yet. The woman says she can't believe he actually came. She explains that she didn't think he could come and says she could die in peace now. The man says he came to take her with him. The woman says that he still wants to use his ability to protect others. The girl says she doesn't want anyone to see her tears and announces that she's not going to cry. The girl says she is glad he came. The girl says, "Kyoka." The woman calls out to Atsushi Nakajima, who strikes his opponent with his sword, making a loud sound. The man tells her to break the crystal in her forehead. Atsushi Nakajima says, "Go ahead." The girl says, "Grab." He jumps towards the man with the mask. The man with the mask makes a swoosh sound. Atsushi Nakajima tells her that he can't let her die and explains that he can't let her die. He says to return it. Then the blade shatters, making a sound of impact. He and the man make powerful movements, creating a vortex of energy. Atsushi Nakajima says he can't let the girl go alone. The girl explains she doesn't want him to take any risks. Atsushi Nakajima suddenly strikes the tiger with his sword. He falls down holding the box, then jumps up sharply holding it above his head. He notices a tiger attacking him and screams. Atsushi Nakajima fights a huge beast that grabs his head and tries to bite him. He jumps to the side. He strikes the beast with his sword. The beast makes a sound of impact. Atsushi Nakajima stands with his arms outstretched as a strong wind swirls around him. He says he can't believe it happened and explains that he didn't mean to hurt anyone. Atsushi Nakajima says he's injured. He says that everything is fine, and when Tiger returns, everything will be healed. Atsushi Nakajima reports that there's a tower in this town that only appears during the full moon. He explains that the tower is hidden by fog and makes strange sounds. He tells them that the citadel of the dead is there. He says that they need to save Dazai-san because he knows what to do. The girl explains that they need to save him. The woman says it's a device for communicating with spirits. Atsushi Nakajima says, Tien. He explains that it's a sound recording device and says it can record for up to 10 hours. He says it can be used to record lectures or interviews. The woman reports that Atsushi Nakajima's tiger-like regeneration hasn't returned yet. Atsushi Nakajima says he defeated the enemy, so why did this happen? Atsushi Nakajima asks if his ability has returned. The woman laughs and calls Atsushi Na. The woman asks if he has regained his ability, and he explains that his ability is not returning and wonders why this is happening. Atsushi Nakajima says that Tozuya. The man reports that the other one still hasn't gotten it. He reacts to this with surprise. The man walks to the large door and continues walking. Atsushi Nakajima says what he's talking about. The man makes a sound of displeasure. The man turns and says something. He shouts at Akutagawa and asks what it means. Atsushi Nakajima yells that the boy is badly hurt. The girl tells the boy to rest here. The boy responds with a question. The woman asks him to forgive her for not telling her and explains that she didn't want him to know, and he asks what. The girl reveals that the phone controls the snow demon and that she didn't actually mean to hate it. Atsushi Nakajima reacts with surprise. He announces that he will complete the mission. He shouts, "Stop," and takes a step. Atsushi Nakajima goes bam and falls to the ground. He says, "Koyoka-chan." Atsushi Nakajima announces that he has arrived. The man asks who. Then there is a thud. He says he can't believe it. He slams the table loudly, expressing his displeasure. The man gives the number A5158. The man says the other person seems to have no fear at all, since he dared to call and summon him. Atsushi Nakajima appears in the doorway. He says that he thinks the gentleman should wait outside. The man explains that this is a government facility and asks if Atsushi thinks he's allowed to do that. Atsushi Nakajima says he decides what he's allowed to do, and not the one who owes him anything. The man says Atsushi Nakajima owes him something. He says it's the other way around. The man asks what he's talking about. Atsushi Nakajima says that the other person is useless and simultaneously smashes the wall with his fist. A man says he doesn't know what happened 6 years ago. A man says he thinks he knows everything. A man hears a cracking sound. Atsushi Nakajima says it was the government that started the Dragon Head War. The man listens silently. The man says that the other one is of no use. The man says he thinks he knows nothing. The man says he doesn't know that 6 years ago, Atsushi Nakajima said it was the government that started the Dragon Head War. He speaks of a double darkness, divided into white and black. Today is reportedly the 70th day since the start of the Dragon Head War. The boy reports hearing a creaking sound. Atsushi Nakajima says he's calling Dazai and asking where he is. The woman says it's noisy and shouts respect. Atsushi Nakajima tells him his boss called, and he's lying there shaking, asking if Dazai was here. Dazai says he'll get a size that's appropriate for someone like Atsushi, asks if that'll be more comfortable, and then greets him. He says he's not even there and that he's not that tall. He asks me to wait and he'll get a microscope. He asks if anyone's saying anything and says, okay. Atsushi Nakajima says the Port Mafia is currently in a situation unlike any other in history. He then declares that this is the most brutal battle in the history of all of Yokohama. The man asks him not to shout like that because he knows about it. He reports that among the 4 major organizations, 80% of the members of the foreign group strain were killed. The head of the organization, Takezakai, was killed, causing the command to get out of control, and all the other organizations are also on the verge of death. Atsushi Nakajima says hatred, revenge, and suspicion gave birth to this bloody storm. He says that if everyone dies, everything will end. He tells the guy not to worry. Atsushi Nakajima says he's a jerk and asks if he's serious. He says that, unlike his interlocutor, no one in this city wants to die, and suggests putting an end to the conflict since he's found time to sleep. The man laughs and explains that this is precisely why everyone is only trying to ignite the conflict more intensely, adding fuel to the fire. Atsushi Nakajima says there's no problem in trusting the conflict to Mori-san, but he needs to be careful. He asks to look at a photograph. Atsushi Nakajima shows him a photograph of a corpse. The boy asks whose corpse it is. He reports that the colonel is an active enforcer of the port mafia. Atsushi Nakajima says that the old man is dead and that it's impossible. Then he asks who did it. The man remains silent. The woman reports that the stranger who suddenly appeared in Yokohama a few days ago is called the White Kirin. He tells this name. Atsushi Nakajima reveals that he is attacking organizations involved in the conflict without warning, trying to take control of them, and explains that he is like a demon. He says that nothing is known about his ability yet, but probably the more he kills, the stronger he becomes. Atsushi Nakajima explains what they'll do with him. The man explains that for him this conflict is like a rich hunting ground and asks what the... He announces that the head position is now vacant. He explains that they can become candidates for the head position and asks if this is true. The man says that Chuya is thinking incorrectly. The man sharply strikes Atsushi. Atsushi Nakajima says he's not giving up. The man explains that he's not giving up either and that they both must keep fighting. He says he shouldn't tell him any fairy tales and orders him to say thank you for not hitting him at all. The man says it was an unexpected blow and he was scared, then explains that he doesn't feel any pain. Atsushi Nakajima says he'll deal with this bastard himself. He says the other person can sleep here until they die. Nakajima says it's scary and laughs. A few days later, the White Kirin declared war on all organizations fighting against him, accompanied by an explosion and the destruction of buildings. The text states that the conflict between several organizations has escalated into a war. Atsushi Nakajima says that the situation is really not the most pleasant, and here they are. The man explains that if this were a normal conflict, the opponents would be numerous organizations, their actions dangerous, but they can be calculated. He says he could predict them, but not manipulate them. Atsushi Nakajima explains that his purpose, ability, absolutely everything, and even his location 2 weeks after the declaration of war remain unknown. It seems as if they are fighting in a thick fog, and at the same time, the White Kirin is something completely different, a real mystery. The man reports that the other 4 major organizations, with the exception of the Mafia, are almost destroyed, but they have lost a large number of experienced fighters. Some fighters are missing in action. Atsushi Nakajima reports that one of them is Dazai-kun. He says that they still have to help the rest of their people, except for that idiot Dazai. The man says that if they're still alive, of course. The boy asks Hiratsu if there's any new information about the enemy. Hiratsu says it's just rumors, but the White Kirin's ability isn't so much mysterious as it is deceptive. Atsushi Nakajima reports that everyone who fought him was unable to cope with his power and committed suicide. He asks if anything is known about Dazai-kun's disappearance after the headquarters building collapsed. The man says he checked 3 times but didn't find anything new. Then he explains he found some clue. The man reports that he appears to have purchased a new microscope, but there's no sign of him using it. Atsushi Nakajima says that it's a microscope and says he'll take it now. He screams, demanding to see where someone is, calling him a bastard. The man says that he is in his room. He orders them to take him there. Atsushi Nakajima reports, here it is. Atsushi Nakajima stomps his feet on the microscope. The man grabs the handle of the gun and says, grab it. He screams. The man reacts with surprise. He delivers a powerful blow, causing an explosion. The man asks why they broke it and tells him to look at what was inside. Atsushi Nakajima says it's the same. He says it's a communication device and transmitter and tells them to monitor the same frequency as this device. He explains that the bastard hasn't disappeared and has anticipated the enemy's actions, deliberately allowing himself to be caught. Atsushi Nakajima reports that the transmitter shows that he is currently near the White Kirin. The man reports that the motorcycle starts. The man explains that it is his bike. Atsushi Nakajima says he'll catch up with fucking Dazai. A large, bright moon is depicted in the night sky, surrounded by clouds. There is no text or speech on stage. Nakajima reports that there are many people in this city who cannot sleep at night and explains that they cannot sleep because of their problems and worries. Nakajima reports the sound of an explosion. Nakajima fires along with 2 other men and the sound of gunshots is heard. A man with a mustache and glasses fires along with 2 other men and the sound of gunshots is heard. A man and a woman are walking down a hallway when the man says they need to stop. The man throws a grenade, which explodes near the 2 people. A man reports the sound of a gunshot. A man and a boy report the sound of a gunshot and prepare for battle. Atsushi Nakajima says, "Stop," then steps on the ground, causing an explosion. The man hears footsteps and sees Atsushi Nakajima approaching with a gun. He says there are only corpses everywhere you look. He also says that this is an abomination. A man shouts, "Hooray!" and similar shouts can be heard in the background. The man says, "Hooray!" A woman and a man are screaming, and a girl between them is crying. Atsushi Nakajima says the child is lucky to be alive in this situation, exhaling and comforting the crying baby. He informs that it will soon become dangerous here and explains to Otasaku that he better leave here as soon as possible. He asks Dazai where he is. The man expresses surprise. Atsushi Nakajima is speaking from the road, Slug. He says that since Chuya is still in the enemy's sights, he can get shot and die. He screams, "Halt!" Atsushi Nakajima says he still has something to say. A woman fires a rifle. The sound of gunshots is heard. Atsushi Nakajima says he'll definitely hit you if he waits. Nakajima Atsushi reports that an explosion has occurred. Atsushi Nakajima reports that the shot hit its target. He jumps on his motorcycle over the explosion that erupts on the ground. The sound of the motorcycle hitting the ground can be heard. He says that there is a man there. The man makes a sound that expresses a sharp movement. The man reacts to this with surprise. A man makes a skr sound while standing on a roof with his hands raised. Nakajima reports a sudden rupture of the surface. Then, a loud explosion is heard. Nakajima reports that this building is the SSS headquarters. Atsushi Nakajima says it's a shopping mall. The man says he got carried away. Then he jumps, accompanied by the sounds of a crack and a thud. The motorcycle accelerates sharply and soars upward, leaving behind a trail of smoke and the sound of an engine. Atsushi Nakajima reports that he is moving at high speed, accompanied by sounds. A man fires a firearm, firing several shots at a moving object, which quickly moves away. The man then continues firing, creating a series of shots and explosions. The man stands on the roof of a building, observing the scene, while he stands nearby. Atsushi Nakajima reports that he is unable to use his abilities. He says it would be great to die from lightning strike. The man says, "Ha." He notices the man and says, "May." Atsushi Nakajima says he's gone crazy, idiot, and that he's here for his soul. He announces that the other one is 5 minutes late, then he jumps down. Atsushi Nakajima announces he's handcuffed. The man explains that the thump sound means fall. He says that because of this, he has 3 more bruises. The man explains that he doesn't think it's worth wasting his energy on him. He asks if maybe he should finish the man off. Nakajima Atsushi reports that they are surrounded. Then several hooded men begin to advance, one of them raising his hand and summoning lightning. Atsushi Nakajima says, "Okay," then announces that it's time to return the favor. The sounds of explosions are heard above the building. Atsushi Nakajima reports that the threat level has reached the SSS maximum. Atsushi Nakajima explains that the attack destroyed the ground, trapping many people under the rubble. Atsushi Nakajima reports that a person is visible among the rubble, trying to escape. He says that if there are no problems, we can start tomorrow. The man explains that, in that case, everything necessary will need to be prepared. Atsushi Nakajima explains that the place is a ruin and that there was once a school here that was destroyed during the war. He says that he doesn't care about the White Kirin or his name. He explains that he is here. Atsushi Nakajima announces that he's only here to retrieve his comrades. The man remains silent, only his footsteps can be heard. 2 men say the word top. Atsushi Nakajima reports that this place looks like a camp. The man explains that this place is called the Cage and that it's where criminals who can't be released are sent. He says he won't get it, and then he says he will get it. Atsushi Nakajima reveals that he burned all the letters so no one could read them. He says he will or he won't get it. He repeats that he will or he won't get it. Then he says, "Ooh," and throws something into the bucket, making a cracking sound. Atsushi Nakajima says it's such a shame when a fortune-telling comes true, and even creating an organization didn't help him get what he wanted. The man reports that he once encountered a child happily playing with some kind of tin can. The boy says he doesn't understand why he played with it in particular, and asks what he expected from the toy, noting that it's so banal. He explains that children are so hopeless and break their toys for momentary power, and in such moments he feels like a child. Atsushi Nakajima demands his friends back. The man greets the guests and says it's unlikely they'll be able to give him what he wants. He says that everyone will die, just like all of them. Nakajima reports that all of his interlocutors' friends committed suicide, and there was nothing to take from them. The man explains that it was pointless and futile. Atsushi Nakajima says that boring people are boring even in death. He says he's addressing someone, you. The guy suddenly breaks the wall. Atsushi Nakajima says, okay, okay, then he tells her not to stop him. After that, Atsushi Nakajima explains that it's about vague sadness. He announces that this is the end and screams. A man stands in the center of the explosion. A man looks at the flash of light. The image contains no text or speech from characters and shows a powerful explosion or bright flash destroying buildings. Nakajima Atsushi says he can't take it anymore and is going to scream. Atsushi Nakajima says he can't believe this happened. Nakajima announces that this time he will not fight, but will observe. He explains that if he cannot win, he will not be able to protect those he cares about. Atsushi Nakajima reports that when he reached Shibusawa Castle, his friends were already dead due to his ability. He says that it was the officials who sent Shibusawa to the Dragonhead War. The man says it was 6 years ago. The man explains that the talk was about stopping the conflict that had engulfed all of Yokohama, but he wasn't interested, and the piles of corpses only grew. The man explains that the government continued to protect him, considering him a valuable expert capable of single-handedly resisting an attack by the target. Atsushi Nakajima explains that this is why they not only turned a blind eye to those they killed outside the country, but also destroyed all evidence. He explains that if he hadn't been sent then, 6 of his comrades would be alive now. The man says that everything is happening for the sake of peace in their country. The man screams, and then he tells the man to watch his language. The man says he doesn't mind being killed and was prepared for it when he asked for help. The man makes the sound of a gunshot. Atsushi Nakajima delivers a punch that sends a man to the floor. The guy